Hey guys, it's Lucas and welcome back to Fine Tuning. Today I'm going to take you through how I dial in the Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200. I've had a few months to get to know this amp. I've used it in several demos and I've been using it in band practice as of late, and it sounds great. It's super easy to use. It's very intuitive if you're like me and you're kind of a traditional amp guy in the way that your mind functions. Having knobs is great instead of having to do everything through like a computer app or something. So I'm going to take you through dialing in 4 different sounds, and these are going to be the sounds that I'm going to use for band practice tomorrow. So let's get started. Oh, quick note, I'm using my Gibson Firebird today, and we are also using the Hughes and Kettner's AE, or Redbox AE out, so this is the direct out run into my interface that you're hearing. So the sounds that I'm getting here, if you just dial in your amp exactly the way that I do it, you're going to get these exact sounds, minus you won't have my hands and my guitar. But it'll have this exact amp sound. So anyway, let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna start with a clean patch. I have this patch preloaded. Everything is at noon except for the sagging control, which is all the way off, and I like to add that as I feel it's necessary. But everything else is at noon, and there's no effects or reverb or anything on it right now, so what you're hearing is just the dry, clean sound. I'm using the 5 setting on the cab type, which I think is like the vintage 412, and that just is the one that sounds the best to me. And I like to use the same cab for all the models so that, the sound guy up front is getting a pretty similar thing. It's more realistic, I think, that you would be playing through the same cab regardless. So anyway, here's what we're starting with. Alright, so that's not a bad amp sound by any stretch. I'm going to turn up my monitor here just a little bit so I can hear it better. So I'm thinking the first thing that I want to do is add a little bit of top end via the presence and treble controls. So let's try that. So here's what we're working with. And let's try bringing in some treble. That sounds good. I'm thinking maybe you could use a little bit more mids too. Yeah, that's nice. Now, the bass and the resonance control are both low-end frequencies, but the bass is more like the lower end of the guitar, and the resonance is more like the bottom-end move air of the cab, the cabinet moving air. So let's try adding a little bit of bass and see what that does. Okay, so that's a little woofy, I think. I'm liking that. So that's a little under halfway. Then let's try bringing up the resonance. So this is going to be the cabinet sound, like the sound of a big cabinet moving air. That's good. That makes it fuller. Let's go ahead and crank it all the way up. Alright, in this case I think that actually sounds good. I don't usually run the resonance all the way up, but on a clean sound it's pretty nice. But I still think the amp could use some sparkle, so let's use the presence control. I think I'm going to back down the resonance just a little. that sounds really good. So that's a nice full spectrum clean sound. You got good bass, good mids, good treble. You know, it's full sounding. All right, so let's play with the gain control a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe I want a hair less gain than that for a really clean sound, but let's play with it some. I like that. It's a little cleaner. All right, now we're gonna mess with the sagging control. So sagging is kind of emulating the power tube section working. So the higher you turn it up, it's essentially like turning the amp up louder without actually making the amp louder. So I have it completely off right now, but I'll bring it in a stage at a time, and you'll hear it'll kind of warm up the top end. It's gonna make everything a little squishy, and as you go higher and higher, it's gonna start to add the sound of power tube distortion. So this is off. That feels alive now. That's a really great sound. So I don't want to do anything to the tone at this point. I like the way that sounds. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is hit the store button. So I have the foot switch here, which I think you can see in the shot. So if you want to store this and you have the foot switch, all you need to do is, you know whichever preset you want to use. So I'm going to use A button here. So you just hold the store button and then hit the button of the foot switch that you want to use, and it's stored. So that's our clean sound. But I went ahead and saved it so I could keep that tone, but now I want to add some reverb. So we're going to go over and hit the effects access button, and so now these knobs are going to be governing effects stuff. So the first thing I want to do is add some reverb. I like a pretty wet clean sound, so now I want to add some delay so that if I do arpeggiated, I get some echo. So you have delay controls for level, so how loud the delay is. Feedback is the number of repeats, and the time is like how far the repeats are apart. So let's go ahead and just bring up the level and see where we're at. All right, I'm gonna use the tap tempo here to get a... All right, I want a little bit more delay in the mix than that. Not quite that much. And a little less feedback. Beautiful. So the last thing I want to add for my clean sound is some chorusing. Because when you're playing in a guitar band, which is like a 3 guitar band, which is what I'm doing right now, it helps to be able to like add some some extra elements, and so adding that chorus kind of like makes all the guitars warble in a nice way for certain parts. So you have your mod control over here, your mod type, and you've got chorus, flanger, phase, and I think tremolo is what that other one is. I can't really see it from here, but I'm pretty sure it's tremolo. So we want to turn it all the way down to chorus here, and then this is your intensity, so that's how much of the effect. And you'll see there's a little section in between each one, so like where the C is, there's a couple of dots there, and so as you turn it up more in that area, you're going to get more of a prominent chorus, kind of warbly sound. So I don't want quite that warbly. I think that's about perfect for me right there. That's exactly what I want out of this clean particular sound for this group. So once again, we're going to hit the effects access button. So now we're back in the regular mode of the amp, and we're going to hit the store thing again. So we'll hold store and hit A. And now we have stored our clean sound with reverb, chorus, and delay. Beautiful. All right, let's move on. So now we're on the B, and I have this set on the crunch channel. Now, what I want to do here is something pretty similar to what I have with the clean sound, except for more of a crunch sound. But again, I want that reverb, delay, and chorus for kind of the same idea, but just louder, if that makes sense. So that's a little too much gain, so let's turn the gain down. I also think that has a little too much bass. Let's add some mids. And definitely some treble. Again, a little too much bass still. Even maybe a little bit less gain. And you'll notice as you turn the gain down, you can add more bass, or vice versa. If you turn the gain up, you would want to remove bass. So that's kind of cleaned it up. So let's try adding some of that bottom end through the resonance control instead of the bass. Sounds pretty good. I'm thinking I want more treble. Also think I want more presence. Not that much. I'm thinking maybe that's still a little tubby, so let's try turn the bass all the way out. Okay, that's a nice kind of like mild crunch sound. I like the way that sounds. So let's go ahead and store that, just so that we don't affect our progress. All right, now we want to mess with the sagging control, so we want to, maybe amp it up a little bit. right there. That's like on the 5 setting. It's amazing to me how much that just twisting that knob and starting to bring that sag in really makes it start to feel like a real amp. Beautiful. All right, so let's go over to our effects access. Then we're gonna add some reverb. All right, and let's go ahead and bring in some delay. And we'll do the tap tempo thing again. That sounds really, really nice. And now, once again, we're going to bring in just a little bit of that chorus. Perfect, that sounds fantastic. So let's go back out of effects access. Turn the resonance back down just a little. Something you might notice is that as you add things like chorus and reverb, the bottom becomes more apparent, more full, and so you can kind of back the resonance down some after that, whereas you might want more if you were just playing with a pretty dry sound. All right, so let's review. We got our clean sound here. And then our crunch with a similar effect set. See how those sound like pretty similar amps? That's what's important here, is I'm trying to get a through line so that the amp, you know, even though I'm changing channels, kind of sounds the same. It's just like I'm adding more to it. I'm adding more gain. All right, so let's go over to our C here. Okay, so now we're over on the C setting, and I have this set on the lead mode, which is kind of like a Marshall-y type sound, and this is my favorite thing the amp does, is this channel. It just sounds killer. So once again, everything is set inside the amp, though the knobs don't look like this. It is a smart amp, so it is set halfway up. So this is what we're working with to start. So this is going to be kind of a heavy drive rhythm sound, not quite metal, but heavier, a la Foo Fighters kind of something. So I think I probably want a little bit more gain than that. Try kicking the boost on. That really thickened it up. Also added some noise, which we're going to deal with right now. So now this reverb control, when it's in the standard amp mode, is also the noise gate control. So check this out. Quiet as a mouse. Okay, so one thing I can tell is that there's too much bass. So let's turn the bass control down further. Some more treble. top end presence. So you get that nice attack. That's what's really important for the kind of heavy rhythm stuff. That sounds really good. I like the way that sounds. So let's go ahead and mess with the sagging control now. So here's with it off, which is where we're at to start. You'll hear as I start to bring it in, it's going to warm up the top end a little bit. A little too saggy. About what I want right there. Yeah, that sounds great. Now, since this is a heavy drive sound, I don't want a ton of effects on it, but I do want to give it a little bit of ambient. So basically, I'm just going to add a little bit of reverb. So let's go over to our effects access, and let's bring in some reverb. Maybe a little bit more than that. That sounds good. I think maybe I put just a hair too much gain on. Start bringing in a little bit of resonance. That sounds great. All right, so we're gonna once again hit the store button and then hit C. So let's review. Clean with chorus and delay and reverb. Then crunch with chorus, delay, and reverb. Then a heavy drive with a little bit of reverb. Cool, that sounds great. So now I really like the sound that we have for that heavy drive right there, and I want to basically turn that into a lead sound without doing too much to it. I just kind of want to add some gain, maybe roll the treble off, some stuff like that. So what you can do is if you have a sound like this that you like and you want to just copy it over to another bank, you can pretty easily do that. So what I'm going to do is hit the store button and then hit D. So now I have the same thing on both C and D. So now I can start working off of that. So now what I want to do, since this is going to be a lead sound, let's go ahead and turn the presence down some. We're going to bring in some mids and treble. Add some more gain since this is a lead sound. Also going to bring the sagging control up. It's going to feel nice and squishy. Turn the resonance control down a little bit. Leads, you want more mid-range. Alright, that's a good sound, lead sound right there. We're gonna turn the noise gate up a little bit because we added more gain. All right, so let's go over to our effects access. So I like the amount of reverb there for the most part. But I'm gonna want some delay because this is a lead sound, so let's go ahead and bring in some delay. That sounds really good. All right, so we're gonna go back out of effects access, and I'm gonna back down the gain a little bit. I think I put a little too much on. Let's go ahead and crank that sag control. Get your Van Halen on. Great, that's a fantastic lead sound that will cut right through the mix. So the only thing I want to do now is make this just a little bit louder, because usually when you're playing a lead you want to come above the band just a little bit. So let's just turn the volume control up. So this won't affect the master. The master governs everything. This will just be this individual channel. Perfect. So we'll hit store. And there we go. So now what we should have is a clean sound with chorus reverb and delay. Then a nice wet crunch sound with chorus reverb and delay. Then a nice heavy crunch sound. And then a lead sound that's got delay and reverb and it's also a little bit louder. All right, there you go. That's the Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200 dialed in the way that I would do it. Of course, if you do different genres or different styles, you might want to dial this in a different way. I didn't even touch the Ultra channel because that's a much more aggressive kind of scoopy metal sound, and for what I'm doing right now, I don't need that sound in particular, but it does sound really good, so we'll do that in another video if you guys want to see it. But anyway, there's some tips, tricks on how to dial it in. That's how I would go about it. I hope this has been helpful for you if you're a Black Spirit owner. This is a fantastic amp. I love it. It's just indispensable to me as a tool. So anyway, until next time, I will catch you later.